Right, now if we go with the theme. Josh, if you just
Oh, you didn't even tell me that was my job. Use your phone.
press play.
There ain't no play.
Oh, fucking hell,
This is ridiculous. You didn't tell. Fingerprint. I've got your fingerprints, mate.
Novel adventure.
I'd better add, I'm quite sure I'm not a great novelist.
Novel adventure.
I cannot put it in fiction form.
Novel adventure.
I don't think it's the novel I like best.
Novel adventure.
I see how its end is all right.
Novel adventure.
Generally speaking, I haven't written as much as I'd like to.
Novel adventure.
And of course I would have been glad to write more novels.
Finished Catcher in the Rye. Nothing really happens. He just moans all the time. A catcher in the rye isn't even a real job. Be a fucking accountant or something. If you're wondering why I'm reading these out, listener, these are Josh's texts about Catcher that inspired this show. And we'll find out later, Josh, if you've revised your thoughts at all.
We'll find out, mate, won't we?
Now, before we get to the set text of the week, and it is a set text, I'm going to start calling it a set text to give it a bit of authority.
What does set text really mean? What does the word set in this whole... Is it just like a set
A
amount of
text from
text, I
which you
assume?
cannot deviate.
This is just proof,
It's like
if any was needed,
a
that you
set.
didn't go to English lessons.
A set text. Okay, like a book is what you mean.
So, very shortly, we're going to come to Josh's Amazon review of the week, which is actually my favourite bit. And then we've got some exam questions for Josh and Ollie to tackle. And our third dictionary corner. Now, I've already mentioned that this book is responsible for kickstarting the show. Josh, I believe this was the first book you turned to after you decided to embark on your novel adventure.
Yes, it was.
Was there any reason?
This was when I decided to broaden my Literatree.
Oh, Jesus, he doesn't like a thing.
Literature.
Sorry, can you say that word again?
I literally don't know what it is. It could be
Literary.
I told you that's what it was. That's what I said first time, wasn't it?
Literature.
Yeah. Off the Literatree. Literary. I plugged this
literary book off the Literatree.
Can I have the sweet fruit from the Literatree? What was the question? Sorry.
Why did you pluck this book from the Literatree?
Well, basically, it was the first book that I thought of when people. It's always in sort of best novels ever, top 100 classic
novels ever.
that's
Well, sorry, where did you read that?
Guardian.
Okay, you got a source for that?
No, it's just the Guardian.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just like one of the sort of big books that you have to read that I never really read when
Okay,
I was.
Now I'm interested. What other books would you associate with that category?
What? So, what are the iconic books that you should read?
Well, in the Guardian
All
best
the ones-
books ever article that you've obviously read. What else is in there?
I've read it thoroughly, yeah. Well, just the 1984, stuff like that.
You're not allowed to just name ones we've done.
What else have we done? What else we got coming? I don't know, Jungle Book, Wind in the Willows, that sort of stuff.
Okay.
I don't know, just like like Moby Dick.
I know
that
what you
sort
mean.
of
I'm
rubbish.
just being a bit mean. You saw it in this best.
Oh
of
yeah, okay, of course.
best
of
novels
course.
ever.
Yeah,
list.
because I wasn't sure
Totally
the Catcher in the
authentic.
Rye. I wasn't sure what the Catcher in the Rye was to begin with.
Okay. Well, so you were intrigued by the title.
It was well, first and foremost, it was an iconic book.
Yep.
Everyone's talking about Catcher in the Rye.
Yep.
I never got
Ollie's going to tell us why very shortly.
I never got around to reading it when I was supposed to read it because it's a book about sort of teenage rebellion and being a bit of a naughty bastard when you're sort of in your teenage years.
So you thought maybe you would associate with Holden a little bit.
No, not at all.
No?
It was just a book that I feel like I should have read at age when I got to 24 years of age. No, 23 at that time.
What?
Actually.
Because you thought maybe because it's about a
thought-
young
yeah,
person,
maybe
you
sort
might
of-
want to read it when you're still young.
Yeah, maybe sort of missing out, whatever. And
Okay.
then I didn't know what Catcher in the Rye was. I was like, maybe it's something to do with whiskey or something like that.
So
But,
you thought maybe on the last page it might explain.
yeah,
and a
Catcher in the
Catcher in the
Rye.
But it does, doesn't it, Josh?
Yeah, it does. I'm going to go and stand a bit.
We'll
'cause
get
it's
to what
bullshit.
Josh thinks of the metaphor.
Oh, that's yet to come, my friend.
But yeah, Ollie, at this point, as Josh alluded to, it is a bit of a classic, and it would be great if you could maybe tell us why and give us a bit of a synopsis.
Yeah, I guess it's kind of inherited the significance of being considered a classic very much because the time J.D. Salinger was writing, America was experiencing adolescence for the first time. It's easy now to say that it's sort of portrait of a very sort of introverted, narcissistic, pretentious, all these kind of adjectives we throw at young people. You have to remember that at the time Salinger was writing, this is sort of post-war America where there was affluence and people at the age of, ages maybe from 10 till 16 to 17 were getting to enjoy a bit of freedom due to the prosperity of the country. And it's the first novel that really deals with these ideas in a way that is recognizable to readers of today. There are novels about young people as far back as, I mean, you could probably argue that the Odyssey is to do with young people, and Telemachus is a young man. But ultimately, this is the first book which presents a teenager in the way that we are familiar with a teenager, the concept of a teenager. And that's
really interesting.
Male, middle-class, white guy who has unfortunately come to dominate general characteristics of literature.
So basically, it spawned a lot of not so desirable things, but actually you can't blame it for that.
I mean, you only have to look at sources like The Guardian, The New Statesman, all very reputable places. Whenever a new novel comes out featuring a young person, it's like shorthand now. We say that he's Holden Caulfield of the iPad generation. When there's not necessarily many similarities there.
Cool. Well, sold over 65 million copies worldwide.
For real, that's impressive.
Critical and commercial stormer, you might say. And it's also a mainstay on Western school syllabi, which makes for some good exam questions we'll come to later. So, Josh, I'm going to give you your chance to fight back now. Yeah. Have you looked on the book any differently in hindsight? Has revisiting it taught you anything?
Almost definitely, because this was the first book that I'd read properly since Stephen Gerrard's second autobiography. And I won't say anything more about the new one. This was the first book that I'd read. It was my debut, so to speak. My first
Literatree debut?
My Literatree debut. I didn't realise so much had happened. Like, I was sort of reading it, and it was just glazing over. And it was only since I've reread it that I realised this guy has just gone through, met so many people, and I had no idea of these situations that had happened. Or that I didn't remember them, but I think it was more that it just sort of passed me by. So I think rereading...
So you didn't read it very well the first...
I think that's probably what it is.
Did you just look at it?
No, because looking's different to reading.
That's profound, Josh. That's actually a good point.
Stick that on the old trailer, because that might get the young'uns in. But I think the second time round and sort of reassessing it, I realised that a lot more happens, and I stormed out the blocks with the quotes. I stormed out the blocks, and I was a little bit rude about it, and I still think it's a bit shit. But
I still think it's a bit shit. So you've just wasted like 2 minutes rambling about how you might have changed your view and then just dismissed it.
That's about 45 seconds. But I think I was giving it a little bit more jip than maybe what was deserved. But I still don't think it's a book for me. But I think because I knew that I was reading it for a purpose, second time round, but sort of to delve into it and untuck what's happening in the pages for this podcast,
okay,
I was more prepared. Whereas the first time I just sent a message.
Can I take credit for that?
Sounds a bit like you're saying you went back to it wanting to like it, so you.
No, I wasn't going wanting to like it because I knew that my first opinion was so strong that I wasn't going to like it anyway. But I didn't realise. I think my technique had changed. I think my technique's progressed in the last 6 or 7 months than what it had.
That's nice.
On my Literatree.
Can you?
No, but Josh, I should say, this is quite a divisive book. When you came out with your profound insights, I posted them on Facebook.
Yeah, cheers.
And it got a lot of likes. It got more likes than anything I've ever posted.
It's got more likes than any profile pictures I've ever put on, which is quite disappointing.
No, but people weren't just laughing at you; they agreed with you.
It sort of felt like that, though, didn't it?
They say the same thing to the monkeys in the zoo.
In a way, I think it's beneficial because essentially things to the monkey in the zoo. I think it's beneficial because I think my reading's definitely progressed. But it's like your first book back.
Okay. Well, now it's time for your Amazon review of the week. Have you just picked one that echoes your thoughts?
Yes.
Is it one that you wrote yourself?
Well, it's by a guy called we can say his name. He's not going to give a shit, is he?
So this is a
Anthony R.
review.
Dixon.
This is a review Josh has
Well,
got
I mean-
Amazon on our book.
This is by Anthony R. Dixon on the 2nd of Feb 2015, and 9 out of 11 people found this review helpful. So it's not only Anthony, he's got a Mandem behind him as well. So you're not messing
He's rolling squaddy.
you're not messing just with Tony, you're also messing with his boys. So format paperback, which I'm not sure is relevant, but it's not a big deal. Okay, the body of
Good to know,
text
mate.
is quite possibly the most tedious and worst written book I have ever had the misfortune to read. For those that are fortunate enough to have never read it, my advice to you is don't in capitals. It is a story of a couple of days in the life of Holden Caulfield, a whining, overprivileged prep school brat in late 1940s New York. The story is narrated in the first person using a vocab barely exceeding 100 words, which relates
Ollie's shaking his head.
his adventures in New York after getting himself expelled. He acts out his rebellion in a manner that may have shocked a few in its day, but would barely raise an eyebrow today. If I had a friend like him, I'd probably end up punching his lights out. Wouldn't we all?
Does this
1
guy
minute-
like John Lennon?
Nearly going, kill John Lennon. If this was a book of its time, then its time has passed. I read it in my teens and can relate to it. I read it again in my 20s and still don't get it. Don't think I'll bother again. My congratulations to J.D. Salinger, though, for pulling off one of the literary contricks of the 20th century.
Go on,
Think about
Ollie.
that, boys.
Oh, who was that?
Let Ollie off the leash.
That was by Mr. Anthony Dixon and 9 of his 11 followers.
Anthony Dixon.
Anthony R. Dixon.
Hang on,
Anthony
was
R.
that 9 out of 11 people?
Found this review
Blimey,
helpful. Yeah,
that's
I've got it in
pretty-
front of me, yeah.
Well,
That's not good
Anthony R.
numbers.
Dixon. It's unlikely he's going to be listening because
It's not
he
named
won't
Dick in his-
seek out podcasts.
We'll track him down.
Yeah, but he won't seek out podcasts that are talking about J.D. Salinger. But if you are listening, Anthony R. Dixon, I hope that tomorrow you cut yourself shaving and that you're overdrawn at the bank and you realise that those around you have been putting up with you and not actually liking you. And I hope that lump in your testicle does turn out to be something bad.
Blimey.
No, you're wrong. You're wrong on so many levels, and he represents a large majority of people that are morons because this. My blood is boiling, and I need to be articulate about this.
It is quite hot in it.
You cannot measure a book's significance or worth by quote unquote what happens. If you want a theme, go to a fucking theme park. If you want things to happen, just go and
That's
I don't know,
class.
go down to the pier and watch idiots eat candy floss. Like this bollocks. Oh, nothing happens. Nothing happens. Like literature isn't about stories and about this stuff. Grow up.
Of course it's about stories.
is
What are you
in fact-
talking about?
Biff and Chip is about stories.
Yeah,
Literature
Biff and
is
Chip's
about
quality.
way more.
The Magic Key, that's an adventure.
Well, stick with that. Don't come and play in the big boys park.
Of course stories about linear stories. What are you talking about? You're wrong.
Well, I've got degrees that say I'm not.
I've got a degree too
Boys.
in something different.
Boys.
Exactly.
Ollie, are you saying that the plot isn't necessarily the most important thing?
Plot
in
is
a book?
plot is a complete contrivance, and I thought that people were grown up enough to not need stories anymore, but clearly they're not. Plot's bullshit. If I write a story tomorrow and I say, "Oh, there's a bad man and he
Why-
eventually gets served justice," that's not because justice prevails in this world. It's because I, the author, decided for that to happen.
Why do you think that as an open-minded individual in a nice
I'm not
friendly
open-minded.
room? No, I'm talking about me.
All right, okay.
That's your description of yourself, is it?
Yeah.
Open-minded, friendly individual.
I can go on, but I shan't. Why? I would like to know why you don't think a story is an important part of something called a story.
A story isn't well.
It's a fair question.
Why is the plot
No, that's a
not
complete
important in a
tautology.
story?
Why is a story not important to a story?
Okay, well, I was just trying to make my point a little bit
Well,
thicker.
Well,
But we can
articulate,
say, okay, why
an argument, and then I will counter that argument.
okay, why is a plot not
Oh,
important in the story?
Well,
Or in a
it's an
novel.
essential backbone, but it's just like it's complete. It's not the focus of that thing.
Oh no, I understand that, of
But
course. I'm
it's
just
not.
wondering-
It's immaterial. Like books, like this whole nothing happens. It's like the whining of a 5-year-old. Fuck yourself. Like if you're genuinely reading a book for a story,
that was
like
my own initial quote, so that's.
no, I'm just saying that like
this could get a bit heated in the exam questions,
the
couldn't
fiction
it?
is supposed to give rise and create these kind of linguistic worlds and consciousnesses which aren't dependent on a series of events.
Okay.
Because a plot, Aristotle decided way back in the Poetics that there are only a finite amount of routes that a plot can take.
Sure.
Okay. If I write a story about a young boy getting on a bus, there's only a finite amount of variance that story can take.
Okay.
Ultimately. So it's more interesting for me to sort of focus on things that have an infinite sort of possibility and scale and scope, which
And
is
is
to
that
say,
down to interpretation from the reader, I assume?
I totally
with nudges
for
from
instance,
the author.
if I write a story tomorrow about a man falling in love with a woman, okay, there are two denouements to that story. It's either they get married or they don't.
Yep.
Like there's not really much in between that. It would be more interesting if I write a story about a man and a woman from the perspective of the man, and I just have him sit taking a shit. Okay, the whole book is him taking a shit.
That's a
But
curveball.
that whole novel revolves around what he's thinking and the way that he's approaching this and the
So
situation
you're
that he
talking
finds
about
himself in.
literally things that happen on a linear.
It's like if you want things
scale.
wrapped up and you want, oh, it's really nice because good prevails. Oh, it's really interesting that like this happens.
No, I
like
get that.
it's immaterial. Like
All right.
it's a
Makes
very
sense.
basic pleasure which literature is trying to move away from.
And I think this book is much more about what is going on in Holden's head than it is like what he's actually doing.
Jack, have you even read this book?
Yeah.
Be honest, have you?
No, I have, but
Okay,
a long time ago.
Okay, well, Jack, even from a long way back, is getting more from it than Idiot on Amazon.
No, he's called Anthony Dixon. Anthony R. Dixon.
Well, Anthony R. Dixon, like I say, well, I'm hoping he's dead and can't even hear this, to be quite frank. But if he is hearing it, go back and learn a little bit.
Yeah, fair dues.
Don't ever say
you've really
don't
upset
teach
me.
you things. On this
You've really upset me. This is Friday night. People listening should be aware. We're drinking beer. It's Friday night. I'm 24 years old.
In a loft conversion
And I'm in
as well.
loft conversion, and I'm angry over what some idiot has written on Amazon.
No, he's
To be
Anthony R.
fair,
Dixon.
it's
Stop calling me an idiot.
Its percentages on Amazon are pretty good.
Well,
9 out of 11 is not bad, is it?
9 out of 11. That's bollocks.
That's not. It's about 9.
Well, YouTube man peel scab. There'll be more views than 11.
Well, this is Amazon reviews. It's not man kill stab, is it?
So later on, we're going to come to our exam questions.
Yeah, that'll be fun.
I think we know. I think we can tell what direction is headed in. We've also got our third dictionary corner. But as a sort of segue into discussing this book, I thought it was quite interesting that if you take a quick dip into a certain well-known online encyclopedia's entry on Catcher in the Rye, it states that Holden Caulfield has become an icon for teenage rebellion. What do you think of that, guys? Is that a reasonable introduction to our protagonist?
I think it is, but I think the rebellion it's a more passive form of rebellion. Holden Caulfield, if he was to exist now, and I really resent doing this as well because fictional characters are very much bound by the text they exist in. But let's just, for a parlor game, say that Holden Caulfield was to exist now. He wouldn't be going on student marches. He wouldn't be on Facebook campaigning for social justice. Holden Caulfield would be sat in his room bitching about how fake everyone was. He might have
sounds like you, mate.
Phony.
Well, this is why I love the book so much. I've forged an identity out of it. He's the rebel of Holden Caulfield. The rebelliousness of Holden Caulfield is very much to do with sort of an isolated, introverted kind of rebellion. If you were to know Holden Caulfield today, you would just say that he was like lonely, troubled. But I don't know if we
Freddie
use the
from
word
Skins.
Nah.
Not quite, mate.
Maybe what James Franco wants to see himself as. Maybe
Oh.
would be the closest thing.
Don't get me started on Franco.
Franco
Josh, do you think he's an
Franco might be
icon
a
for
fan.
teenage rebellion?
I don't really know that. Well, no, not especially. I think I was a bit confused what he meant by an icon of teenage rebellion because from day dot, really, he was a bit of a wrecking ball. He just sort of like he went from one situation to another, not helping himself, sort of dicking about, saying the wrong things at the wrong time, being a bit of a tool, like a bit of like a just I don't know, balling about. I didn't really think like it was
Conscious
more,
rebellion.
Yeah, I think he was having an hard time. What with his brother? Because I think he was saying it from a tuberculosis clinic or something horrible like that. So when I go back to those quotes, it was quite a harsh quote. Bear in mind the context. So I guess it is a bit of a teenage rebellion thing, but I mean, people just dismiss those sorts of years as, oh, do what you want. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Dismiss those things. And I think maybe this was his way of he was a bit of a dick to people from A to B to C to D.
Excuse.
Yeah, maybe. But
Okay.
I mean, he's fictional, so there's obviously a little bit of a
Josh
secret
is
behind it.
learning. Josh is
learning.
learning. No, I just when he said like he's fictional, he's not a real person. I feel like I'm really proud of
That's
you.
progress. Isn't
Yeah.
it?
Thanks, man. Let's have a hug.
No,
in a
because
bit.
like
The first
people
time he did
if
it,
they're in,
they thought they were real.
There's obviously
no, but people do. People treat fictional characters as if they are, and it's infuriating.
Yeah.
So Josh is learning.
Yeah.
Josh is advanced.
Thanks, man.
That's all right, man.
I feel like
Level 2.
yeah. Bang bang.
Josh, how did you find the wandering, rather listless style of prose? Was it something new in terms of other books you've read? And did it contrast with anything you've read recently?
It didn't really bother me that much because
That's not like what you should be expecting when you go into reading a book.
No, of course, and I
Didn't bother
completely
me.
agree. I completely agree. But being this the first book I've read in a little while, like properly, it was I didn't have anything compared to really, not anything proper. So I'd gone in a little bit blind, so to speak, and I just sort of read it, and it's the structure of the book didn't have any influence on me, but the sort of listless prose. We did the road last week, and that was a very similar. That was one continuous passage of text, and then.
But you would have to agree that Catcher in the Rye is a lot more forgiving than the road.
Oh no, of course, yeah,
Yeah.
100 million times, of course,
Yeah.
yeah. But in sort of structure-wise, sorry, is what I meant. It didn't. It didn't influence my reading at all. I'm not sure if there's a message behind the listless prose or whatever, but it didn't affect anything.
Did you find yourself at any point when you're reading this prose think to yourself like, actually, this is something that maybe not like 24-year-old me or 23-year-old me would identify, but like at 15, did you find yourself guilty of being like, oh, everyone's fake and like everyone's acting these like kind of pretentious roles? Did you agree with that?
Probably
or not?
right. I think you're probably right, and even to a certain extent now, because you can sort of delve back into that sort of, oh, everyone's such a dickhead, everything's so fake. What are you talking about? I get that a lot. Maybe.
Yeah. No, I think that like I think that it's a philosophy that if you're 14 or 15 is totally acceptable and understandable to be like
But then
everyone's
don't you
fake
think
and I hate
that-
this stuff. But
Sorry, that is it. It's not supposed to relate to every. It's like a stereotypical. It's like a stereotypical.
That's a new band name.
Edit that bit out. It's like a stereotypical like teenage thing to think, isn't it? Like a rebellious young adult.
I mean, it's a very like when we're talking about like how writers produce things. If you have a depressed character, which
Sure.
Holden is sort of accentuatedly depressed,
Yeah.
The gambit for that is that like they see through all the bullshit. A depressed person doesn't obligingly go along with superficial experiences. You know, he sees a man in a suit and is like, oh, you know, what a sellout. You know, how corrupt
Sure.
that guy is because he's in this comfortable position of mummy and daddy paying for things and not being exposed to the fact that you have to make money in this world and you do things and you compromise on your morals. So my point is that with Holden Caulfield, it's kind of acceptable to be 14 and be like, everyone's fake. It's all bullshit. I hate everyone. But that's not really like a tenable attitude to have in your 20s or 30s. You know, you have to kind of like be at one with things. I mean, that sounds kind of like real bullshit, but like you have to kind of come round to the fact that like, yes, people are contrived and they do things that are willfully ignorant, but like be an adult, you know?
Yeah.
Do you
no,
think
I do.
he's a good role model for adolescent?
No, not at all.
That's actually one thing I would agree with him. I would agree with you.
Well, how do you
Stick
like?
that on your exam
No,
paper.
not at all. Because
In that voice
like
as well.
he doesn't. Yeah, it's like an octave higher than how I actually speak. But he. How old is Phoebe? What, she's 7
She's
or
younger
8,
than him,
I think?
yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And like there's a part at the end where she's saying like, "You're a bit of a shit." Not obviously, she doesn't say that. I'm paraphrasing.
Oh, are you?
Direct quote.
It's just like earlier when you talked about the Guardian's best books ever.
She just says like, "You're a bit of like a shit," and it's left on an open-ended way in that.
You're a bit of a shit.
It's left like.
Sorry, who is Phoebe?
Hayden's younger sister.
Okay.
You say Hayden, it's like tomato, really,
I
isn't
say
it?
I read the book.
Okay.
I say you glossed
So
over
Phoebe
it.
says you're a bit of a shit.
I think it's not a good way to look if you're bumbling through encounters with different people.
Yep.
Like some more unsavory than others, shall I say. And yet at the end your younger sister's going, you've sort of fucked up here, haven't you? And at the end it's open-ended as well, because he sort of says, I might go back to school, and yet no one really knows what's happening. There's no sort of sequel. We don't know if he's made it. So I think he just got a bad attitude all the way through, really.
Okay.
I think it stinks.
Okay.
Well, this is where our interpretations of the novel diverge, because
Yeah, no, I'm sure.
I don't think it's a shitty attitude. I think it's an authentic and introspective attitude.
Okay.
And you just think he's someone who needs to brush his act
I
up.
think is what it is that I read it when I'm 24 years of age and not when I'm.
But I
of the
read
right
it recently,
age.
and I
Yeah.
still think it's a great novel.
Oh really? Okay. That's
From a
interesting.
stylistic point of view, Because again,
sure.
we've spoken about this before, where like a novel has no obligation for you to like its character.
Yeah, no, I agree.
But it sounds to me as though like you don't like Catcher in the Rye because you don't like Holden Caulfield.
Yeah, I think that's probably unfair.
But I think you're doing.
I
Is
appreciate
that
it's
an
unfair.
comment of Ollie's, or is that you?
I think you're.
No,
being
I
unfair.
think
unfairly
my own
critical.
opinion's unfair because
Yeah.
I'm not as educated in reading as Ollie is, and I think.
But then, would you say
your
like on a
opinion's
sort of
probably right.
like on another level, because J.D. Salinger has kind of he's brought that out of you, this kind of like, oh, I hate this guy. Like that's a skill, right? Like
Yeah, it
as an
definitely is.
author,
No, I
he's
completely
been
agree.
very successful.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think if I know that you read it earlier, but I think if I'd have read it when I was aged, I don't know, 15, 16, I probably would have agreed more than what I do now. But I
Yeah.
think I'm over that sort of stage in my life where I think I'm just a bit of a shithead now, which is unfair.
But this is okay. We're going to go back to literature 101.
Okay.
When reading a novel, we should not gauge its worth, its success, or its kind of meaning on how much a person is likable. Because
Yeah, no, I agree.
you're going to end up just reading. Well, I mean, you've quoted Stephen Gerrard's one. Where I'm beginning to think that perhaps it's just
as I
Stephen Gerrard
should.
that you like, and therefore the
As I
only books
should.
you like are about Stephen Gerrard.
Okay. So the last thing I wanted to touch upon quickly before we have our short break and then come back for our exam questions is one of the ways this novel is quite divisive is that critics will argue about whether it's a classic coming-of-age novel or
Josh,
not.
wait. Can we just interject? Josh, I taught you the word for that. Do you remember what it was?
What was the?
I taught you on a previous episode the word for a
The
coming
only
of age
other word
novel.
you said is anachronistic, isn't it?
No, we did
It's
another
the
one.
only word he's
Oh,
used.
I
the
didn't listen to the
whole pod.
definition. Okay, go on. What's
The-
the context behind the word?
I've now
A
realised
coming-of-age novel.
a coming of age novel.
Coming of age novel.
We spoke about this. I
You
gave
did,
you.
but I've forgotten it as well, so fair play if you have.
It
No,
must have
I'm
been
not.
infuriating being your tutors at university.
It doesn't
No,
go in, does it? It's like a
I
sieve.
can't remember. Sorry, man.
I
I've let you
reiterate.
down. What is
It's
it?
a Bildungsroman.
A Bildungsroman.
Oh,
so
I've
whether
never
this
got.
book-
I've never got that. sounds like a construction company.
Can you sound quite that as well? That will draw people in.
That rope the punters in.
Whether this book is a Bildungsroman or whether it rejects the typical form of the Bildungsroman.
Stop saying buildings from man.
If you want to be like properly.
Can I get the buildings from man? Are you available at 11 tomorrow to build my porch? Fucking
I'm
hell.
going to resign on air. This was meant to be a journey of educating Josh.
Yeah, it is, man.
It's
it is,
failing.
I promise you.
And
Buildings
wheels
from
have come off.
Does he develop as a character in the novel or doesn't he?
man. I'm sort of apprehensive because I'm inclining to know in that he sort of, as I said earlier, he sort of goes from situation to situation with different people, battling this sort of wanting to be alone
Right.
yet wanting
I've
to be
told
with
you
other
this
people.
before.
I was doing a
Telling us
diagram.
what
on the hand.
happens in the book
It's not a sufficient
is
answer.
neither good pod nor good answer for a GCSE paper.
What?
Just you describing what happens in the book. It's
Oh,
not, it's
you
not
do actually, Josh.
interesting
This is
for
true.
anyone.
All right, fuck you then.
Right, we'll break there.
Yeah,
And
break
we'll
there.
come back to the exam question.
Novel adventure.
Okay, so now we have some authentic exam questions courtesy of AQA and Josh's pals at EdXL. There were so many of these because it really is an exam paper staple. And after Josh and Ollie have worked their way through these in the allotted time, we'll come to our latest dictionary corner. Pens at the ready.
This is like countdown.
I've got what I knew things were gonna be. What I'm
Pens
doing,
at the ready.
I'm trying to get us some catchphrase.
Yeah, no.
So we can have
So
some
you're trying to
t-shirts and
get
stuff,
t-shirts, yeah.
like Little Britain.
Get some memorabilia. Computer says no. Pens at the ready in your face.
You'd
It's on
be
a
out of the
t-shirt.
exam hall for talking, my
Oh,
friend.
yeah, sorry. Not in the exam hall.
The novel is structured around Holden's encounters and interactions with other people. Does any pattern seem to emerge, or does anything change in his interactions as the novel progresses? How do Holden's encounters with adults, children, women, and his peers evolve as the novel progresses?
Can I just point out here? I mean, people who've listened to the last podcast will realise now that I am just a maniac with a platform. But the reality is that, like, the idea of progress, I don't really subscribe to. I'm a fucking lunatic, man. Like, I spend time like talking to people about how time isn't real, all that shit. But like, But the
next week.
the,
Well, at the moment it's 10:15. What do you mean time isn't real? It doesn't make sense.
that's a subject for another day.
Let's not get into
But
whether time's
the
real.
idea that like a character has an obligation not only to be likable but has to progress, and like, what do we measure that progress by? Would we agree that? I mean, anyone listening?
I guess it's like a common good and decency, isn't it? I guess in this respect, because the whole point of the book is that it's like a teenage rebellion. There's like a common public good, isn't there? So
Like what?
you've got
Sorry, what?
the X Factor.
Sorry, what are you talking about? What do you mean by there's a common good?
I think there's a common good that the public have, that people have got to be to a certain standard. They've got to behave to
You
a
mean
certain
moral
standard.
standard?
Yeah, like abide the law. You've got to act like a decent human being, whereas Holden.
Yeah. Yes,
Hayden.
Holden, not Hayden.
And we're
Holden.
60% into the pod, and Josh doesn't know the name of the main character.
Holden is like an icon of a rebellion which people don't want to. People sort of they want to like.
Do you want a
because it's
map,
like a
mate?
sneaky thing. Pardon?
Do you want a map?
What the fuck's wrong with you?
Josh, just wrap your point off by telling us what happens in the book, and then we'll all just we'll all know
Fuck
where
yeah,
we're
no,
at.
I'm not even bothering now. Can't be asked. Can't be bothered with you.
This is why you didn't proceed with literature.
You
I
kept
think-
fucking interrupting.
I'm teaching.
What we're
Yes.
seeing, what we're seeing here, kids, is
No, fuck that.
Stay in school.
No, that's not my point. That's not my point. I can't
Is he-
understand very well.
Is he a reliable narrator?
Oh, this is no.
What do you mean
fucking hate
reliable
that word.
narrator?
No,
In what way?
no. Can
Does he tell the events in the book as they happen?
No. I have to interject here. We are never ever. We're gonna have like a unreliable narrator swear jar.
Okay.
Anyone who uses that cursed fucking expression will have to donate £1 to ISIS. No, I didn't mean that. I didn't mean to
Oh, it's
edit
come
that
out.
Edit that out. That's horrible. That is
Was
rude.
it a pump as well?
Ollie's banned literary.
I've just hit rock bottom.
All right, sorry.
I take
we
it
won't,
back,
we
right.
won't use reliable narrator.
Do a little reminder.
Fucking
From
hell.
now on, anyone using the unreliable narrator will have to donate £1 to a charity of my own choosing, purely because it's.
Is it, sorry, Ollie, is it like morally reliable? I'm just confused
No,
what the term means.
people's idea is that like Jack said, that the unreliable narrator is a word that people use for anyone who's telling a story in which their interpretation of quote unquote events isn't accurate. But the problem emerges when there is no actual objective account to begin with. You know, if I go and watch a football game and then I tell you that De Bruyne played brilliantly when he played terribly, yes, I'm an unreliable narrator. When Holden Caulfield tells you that at the station he decided to go and buy a hot croissant bun because he felt depressed, like, that's not because those events actually happened. All we have to go off is what the character is saying.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
There is no,
Okay.
Because
no,
it's a first-person novel.
It's a
and
first-person novel.
There is no other
there's no,
person's
there's no
comparison.
objective
Yeah, I get
truth that the writer is
that. I
writing
get that.
about.
How about in a novel though, where there are multiple characters and they all have different perspectives on things,
And
and some are
that's
maybe more
fine.
reliable in quotes than others?
What you mean? They have a greater fidelity to events as they may have occurred.
Well, let's say 3 characters corroborate the story and one.
I
tells
would
it.
argue that using the word unreliable narrator is almost a tautology that has no real.
I think
meaning.
I agree with you. I think in a first-person novel it doesn't.
I mean, what I'm saying is, like, you can call me an unreliable. We're all unreliable people. Everyone in this room right now is an unreliable person because everything they experience,
Everyone has a bias.
they have their biases. So to just say it is just kind of like an addition that's just not necessary.
Got anything to add to that, Josh?
I think Ollie said it all.
Thanks,
Honestly,
man.
I would have gone more, but I think he's hitting that on the head actually. Congratulations.
Josh, I think you're going to like this one. Why does Holden want to be the catcher in the rye? What are the positive and negative aspects of his fantasy?
Well, the catch in the rye.
Have you learned what it is first and first?
Yeah,
because
no, I've
originally
already-
that was what you wanted to read the book.
Yeah. Well, no, that was the second reason. The catch in the rye thing I thought was a quite odd addition because it was literally catching children from a cliff's edge, which I still think is an odd concept, and I don't think you're going to get paid for that in this day and age. Cameron's not going to dish out minimum wage for you catching kids off a cliff.
What if a lot of children were running off the cliff?
Why are they running off a fucking cliff for? Why have you got a rye field so close to a cliff?
Josh,
for a
again, it's
start?
symbolic. It's symbolic.
What do you think it's a metaphor for?
This should be
Um, Okay, I reckon it's a metaphor for children. Well, it's got to be some sort of demise, isn't it? Because the cliff has got to be some sort of demise. So I think it must be them running unknowingly into some sort of
He's so close.
Trap.
No, it's not trap, Josh. It's not trap. What are children running towards? Inevitably.
Doom.
No, I didn't ask what the Puritans were running towards. I'm asking what children are running towards.
Adolescence.
Oh, he's so close. He's so close. What comes after adolescence? No, not adultery.
Adulthood.
Yes.
He's nailed it.
By making children into these kind of saintly figures, what's he saying about?
No, okay, but that's
being
all
a
well and
kid?
good. The fact that the thing that bothered me about it, I knew what that sort of. I knew the symbolism. Okay, I didn't know it was adulthood, but the symbolism for Catching the Rye is that originally in the book he misinterprets a poem by someone Burns. I can't remember who it is. He misinterprets a poem, and then he's made this whole sort of not job, but symbolism out of this misinterpretation. Where I don't know if that's. I guess because it's in a novel, that's okay.
Oh,
but
absolutely,
it sounds
man. Yeah,
like.
But
I don't know,
he
it doesn't sound proper.
No,
If
but
you know what I mean.
he, like Jack points out, he has this fantasy that is to do with, and the more I think about it, it is strange because the idea, like his ultimate solution to kind of like his problems is to stop people from ever maturing because he sees maturity as synonymous with
Sure.
corruption and becoming a
makes sense.
phony. But like the more you think about it, like what's the alternative? You keep people infantilized.
Just have a load of kids
Yeah.
running around.
It's like Peter Pan, isn't it? Really?
No, laugh, Jack. I think Josh is onto something there.
I mean,
Yeah,
who's gonna bring the bread home?
Yeah, someone else. I don't know. No one, I guess.
Well, they're in a rye field. There's enough to eat.
Just mulch that up.
Eat rye.
Get a bit of rye bread going on. It'd be a bit of a shit diet, but stick some bacon with it.
At least you'll be
Where are you
eating
getting bacon from?
Piggy in the rifle. I have no
the
idea.
pig that strayed in there from Animal Farm.
Yeah. Oh, and next
Right.
week.
I think we've burnt that rye field to the ground. I think.
Oh, good connection. That
Consider
was.
one of the following as symbols: the gold ring, Pensy Prep, or Holden's hunting cap. As we haven't talked about symbolism, I thought this was nice.
I thought I didn't know where the gold ring come in. First off. Second time off, I wasn't entirely sure it was an actual thing because I think he only has the gold ring at the end, and I still don't really know what it's about. So I'm going to move swiftly on from that. The boarding school, I assume, is like normality and people that he classes phonies, and the hunting hat he only puts on when he's trying to, I think it's be an adult or something like that, or no, when he's by himself. I think is actually what he does. He takes it off when he's around other people. So I think it's like an individual thing. He's his own sort of person, which in a way is quite sad because he can't be his own self around other people. So it's a bit of a struggle
Decent
between.
answer.
It's a struggle. I think it's a struggle between him being alone and then wanting to be Ace. My first Ace star this
We
year.
need like an star
Bang
klaxon.
bang
A
boys.
star.
Yeah. Can we edit something in there like burr, burr, burr.
Little klaxon.
Yes, definitely.
DJ.
Oh, I'm so happy.
Very nice. Absolutely nailed symbolism there. Discuss
Bang, bang.
Salinger's use of dialect. Compare or contrast Holden's dialect with the dialect of teenagers today.
What a bullshit question. As if people are actually asked to do that. That is so
I don't really
moronic.
understand.
Well, Josh has moaned about a lot of the words. He moaned about phony.
I think phony's a lame word.
If you're gonna, do you know what? I'll humour and if you're listening to this examiner that came out with a stupid question, your life to this point has been a shambles, and you don't know what you're doing, and you should give up your job immediately.
Unless you're in school,
What do you
then stay
mean?
in school.
Well, I doubt that a child wrote the question.
Well, not a child. You can be in school by like age 16.
What, a 16-year-old's asked to write the questions for his own exams?
Oh, okay.
That's
So we were talking about
bullshit.
answering the question. Yeah, no, it's bullshit. We'll cut that out.
Yeah. That's such a bullshit question. Like, what are they expecting people to just be like, oh, if he existed now, he'd use like
Fab.
LOL and he'd
Mandem.
call people fags. Like, what a stupid question.
It's a crap question, isn't it?
Edexcel should be.
Well, I think. Yeah, no, I don't know what. Was it just the word phony, or was there other examples? Because
We'd use sellout.
Well,
now.
you've just moaned about a lot of things that
the
he's
word
done in the
phony
book.
sounds incredibly lame, and I wish you didn't use the word. If you just said, "No, he's a bit lame, isn't he?" Not, "Oh, he's a phony." It sounds really American.
No, but it's like-
He's American.
It's what we
That's-
call a
that's his
sellout
issue
now.
then.
That's all he's saying is he's just calling people sellouts.
yeah, sure,
And in,
okay.
40 years from now, people will find that word equally as kind of cringe.
Yeah, no, I get it.
Slang dates, I think, is the real message from that.
Yeah.
This is an interesting one. What roles do women play in Catcher in the Rye?
As far as I'm aware, he treats every single woman he meets, bar Phoebe as just objects, I believe.
But there are certain
Isn't that like all men? Feminist klaxon.
Am I right? As far as because I think I'm right, but I might be wrong.
No, Josh, you are right.
But I think he doesn't really.
Yeah, he's not got a great view of women.
I don't think he
encounters a
interacts with
prostitute,
women.
and then he decides to pay her for her time, which just to speak with her.
Yeah,
and that's a really condescending thing.
No, I definitely agree.
Because he's kind of inserting himself and saying, like, I'm above this woman, and what she does is beneath anything I do. So Josh is right. I do think there's a very legitimate claim for why a feminist reading of this book would be useful.
Is it out of step with 50s in general, or is it maybe 40s? But whenever this was written, is it out of step?
I think it was set in the 40s.
Is it out of step with the time?
Possibly. I mean, I wasn't around then, but I would say it's consistent.
I was born in '91, so I have no idea.
I would say it's consistent with Salinger's worldview. Okay. I imagine that the prostitute or the sex worker to him is the most corrupt of all people, regardless of gender.
This is a nice open-ended one to wrap things up. What is your response to Holden?
Do you want to go first, or me to go first?
Holden Caulfield.
Sounds like you're going to beat him up.
Should I go outside, fam?
Holden Caulfield, as I've stressed before, is with other characters, he's a linguistic system, and that linguistic system is brilliant. It gives rise to a consciousness, which when you're reading, you inhabit if you're a mindful reader. And yes, I think that it's a creation of a consciousness that I enjoy, and I read it again and again, and I find it engaging. Whether I like Holden or if as I grow older I become less tolerant of him is immaterial. Yes, I think Holden as a character is a brilliant example of what literature can do. Josh, just go on and say something.
No, I think it's interesting. I think it's interesting point of view because I read it as very one-dimensional, that he was this main little prick that went from event to event, fucking up basically. Sorry, mum. But I completely agree that there's more to than meets the eye to this whole plot, and I'm looking forward to maturing as a reader.
Stop. That was the funniest thing.
I was going to carry on, but you laughed at me.
Right, we'll bring that to a close. Now, Josh, so far you've recommended all of the books of your adventure.
Oh, that's leading.
Is this the case still? Has the book taught you anything?
I don't think it's taught me anything because I don't think I'm at that point yet. But I think on the reevaluation, I think that I've definitely improved how I've interpreted books.
Okay, but
which I think is a person. Oh, we just want to go black and white, do we? Black and white.
Yes or no?
I've got a bit of context here. Yes.
You would?
No.
Oh, I was so hopeful then. I was so hopeful.
That was teetering.
That was a drop of the shoulder.
Okay. Before we bring this to a close, we've just got our third dictionary corner. So far, we've had anachronistic. Molly, Josh, have you used anachronistic at all?
No.
Fair enough.
I tried to and used it wrong.
We try. Diverger follows. Ollie, have you managed to slip diverger into any conversation?
You'll be surprised to hear, Jack, that I haven't.
It's a matter of time, though, isn't it? It's one of those words that crop up.
Its name doesn't keep cropping up, unfortunately. I like to, when I do Dictionary Corner, I give Josh words that he could plausibly use, whereas Josh likes to act the smart ass and find ones that I don't know and will have no use for.
Now you can put your money where your mouth is, because it's your turn.
Okay, the word is simulacra.
Blimey.
Could you spell that for us, please, Ollie?
I'm pissed.
Cut that.
SIMULACU. Oh no, A.
Can we get this right?
Which is, in another form, the simulacrum. People are more inclined to talk about the simulacrum.
I have never heard this.
Can you use it in a sentence?
Okay, how about a situation in which you might use it?
Okay, yeah, we'll go with that. The e-cigarette has become the simulacra of the cigarette.
Is it just a replacement?
It's more specific than that. It's more complex than that.
It's more complex than that. Okay, so it's obviously a substitute. Is it like a?
It's not like a. It's not necessarily it's like a process.
So it's like it's like based on literature, right? So it's a literature term, or can you use it
You can use it broadly
a wider
speaking
context.
everywhere. Like it's not. It's not.
Okay,
it's
not
not isolated.
literature-centric.
It's not. No, the postmodern
Okay.
literature has really adopted it and really run with it. But it's
Okay.
not.
Can you repeat the word? Repeat the word. Can you repeat the word, please?
You want the word again?
Yes, please. Simulacrum.
Simulacrum. Noun.
It sounds like some sort of Egyptian treasure. Like, I literally have no. I don't even know what to. I can't even break it down. Simulacrum.
Josh, you can do 5 yes or no questions if you
You
want.
could say that the Matrix is a simulacrum.
So is it like a parallel?
No, he's thinking aloud, and this is good because he's getting close.
So a simulacrum. So the Matrix is a simulacrum for reality. So is it like a plug-in? So
That's so literal, because in the Matrix.
yeah, that's where I'm going with this. Okay, an e-cigarette was
Plugged in to the wall to be charged.
was a simulacrum for a cigarette.
It's a
I don't even know,
process.
man.
It's not.
Process.
It's not like a. It's not the description of a thing. It's a process. Sort of like osmosis is a process. It's when something
Transforms into something else.
It's not like osmosis. I'm giving osmosis as an example.
Is there osmosis? Okay. Is it a transition between? Is it like a grammatical transition?
What? What's that got to do with an e-cigarette?
I don't even know what a grammatical transition is.
No,
but
I'm
I'm
trying to be
assuming
smart.
it's not one of those.
You're just using grammatical.
I literally have no fucking idea, boys.
Alright,
I
I'll
don't know where
leave
to
that up to
begin,
misery.
man.
The simulacrum is when the simulation of an original thing
Yeah.
comes to replace that original thing.
Nice.
So an
Oh,
e-cigarette,
that's really cool.
an e-cigarette would be considered a simulacrum of smoking because what it's doing is it started out as kind of an imitation of
Yeah.
smoking
Sure.
and then became
Yeah,
demeaning
yeah,
of
yeah.
smoking.
I like that.
Oh,
And,
wow.
and
I like
how is
that.
that used in literary terms?
We'll come full circle.
In Don DeLillo's novel White Noise,
Yeah.
at the beginning of the novel, there is a barn which characters travel to, and it's famously known as the world's most photographed barn.
Yeah.
Okay, and because it's the world's most photographed barn, people show up and they take photos of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the meaning and the reality of that barn exists in the photo and not in the sort of real, tangible barn that you
Sure.
can walk up and touch.
Okay.
So what's happened there is the photograph of the barn has replaced the actual barn in what it means. When people talk of that barn, they're not talking about a barn you can walk around and look at.
Sure.
They're talking about a photograph
photo of a barn.
of that barn.
Are you gonna use that, Josh?
I'll try.
Well, like
Okay,
I say,
man.
man, like
I know, honestly, I really enjoyed it. I don't know
It's a
if
good word.
I think the
It's a very good
e-cigarette
word.
offers an opportunity for that. You could
Yeah,
walk
no,
out
of
if you
course,
saw a
I
guy
agree.
vaping.
Oh, it's a simulacrum for your cigarette.
Yeah, you can do that.
Gonna go up and say, "Excuse me, Esquire, is that a simulacrum for your
And let me
cigarette?"
tell you, Josh. I'm going to tell you
You'd
right now.
be right.
You want to know how many women I've slept with? Because I've used that line. Precisely 0.
I thought it was free.
All right, boys, we just need to decide on our book for next week, and then we can end this
This
turgid-
journey. It's been quite exhausting, isn't it, Captain Uriah?
I feel like we should go beyond 1900.
Yeah, I
with our
think we
next
should do
book,
something about it.
because I think we've been quite.
Oh, bearing in mind I've got to
modern.
buy this on eBay. I hope it's less than.
Well, most old
£5.
books are quite cheap, mate. You'll be pleased to hear.
But it doesn't mean it's an old. You can't buy like an old spell book and it's going to be at 99p. That's not how it works.
Probably-
It's a
probably- you
Wordsworth
probably
classic.
can- you
It's a
probably-
Wordsworth classic.
You probably can these days.
Yeah, we can't buy a like dark arts book and just smash out spells because it's like well old. That's not how old
What are you
books
talking
work.
about?
Old books.
Okay, so what's a classic book we could do from the 19th century?
Heathcliff, it's me, Kathy, I've come home.
Let's do Wuthering Heights.